With all the change that has come to the Chicago Bulls this offseason and the Bulls sending out players that were loved by a lot of Bulls fans and Alex Caruso and DeMar DeRozan, on tonight's episode, I want to hang with you guys a little bit and just talk about how AKME has made an inevitable rebuild harder on themselves by their delayed reaction to what the team in reality was. We're going to talk about it all and more right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bulls Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bulls news and content.
What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm the host there, Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that being said, let's go ahead and get into it for tonight. And listen, nothing too deep here. I just want to talk about, ultimately where the Bulls sit right now. The Bulls have sent out three assets in this, or let them go, I should say. Alex Caruso was a trade for Josh Giddey. We already know that. Straight up trade there. The Bulls didn't get much back. Then they trade DeMar DeRozan in a sign and trade. They get back Chris Duarte, and they get back 2 second-round picks and Raekwon Gray as well, who they end up waiving, and also Andre Drummond. I think that's an important piece in this as well, is that the Bulls end up losing out on Andre Drummond as well, getting nothing back. And when you look at all these players, right, is that Alex Caruso reportedly could have gotten you multiple first-round picks back at last year at the trade deadline. Now, I want to be honest and say that it was reported that none of those picks were in the 2025 draft, which is the next really deep draft. And the Bulls could have very well looked at whatever those picks were and thought Josh Giddey is a better prospect than what we're going to get later in the round of either of those drafts. And make no mistake about it, trading Alex Caruso to the Thunder, those picks probably would have been picks low in the first round, but they could have got multiple picks back. It gives you more bites of the apple. It gives you a couple more assets you can use if you want to move other deals. DeMar DeRozan, reportedly, the Bulls could have got a first-round pick back. They didn't do anything there. Ended up getting 2 second-round picks because they hold on to DeMar. Even offered DeMar DeRozan a contract extension, which he turns down. Knock on wood for that, because if he would have accepted that contract extension and the Bulls would have been locked in right now for DeMar DeRozan for 2 more years at $40 million per year, it would have been even harder to do this rebuild. But so the Bulls kind of save from themselves in a case like that. And then, of course, Andre Drummond, who the Philadelphia 76ers offered 2 second-round picks for that. And then ultimately you don't get that. He goes to the same team for nothing in the offseason. And that just left this thing where AK and Eversley, for whatever it's worth, have made this rebuild really harder on themselves. And, for what it's worth, they've gotten pieces back that theoretically are going to help them. And if Josh Giddey does hit, and there is a chance of that. I know a lot of Bulls fans are down on Josh Giddey. I'm not necessarily right there with them, but I understand some of their pessimism when it comes to that. But it's made things harder on themselves. I don't think there's anybody who would deny or say that the Bulls haven't made what a lot of people looked at as inevitable harder on themselves by the lack of activity, holding on to things that just seemingly this thing was not going to work. And while I don't think, like some people, that the Bulls should have moved off of this as soon as Lonzo Ball went down, I personally don't think they would have ever moved off of those major pieces less than 12 months after putting it together, even with Lonzo Ball going down with injury. But still then, what about a year ago? What about 2 years ago, right? What about those type of things at the trade deadline, making certain moves to kind of evaluate where your team is? And the fact is that the Bulls, whether either way that you look at it, they either did not do enough to make that version of the team more successful, or they weren't aware enough of where that team really sat at and doubled down on continuity and competitiveness for a team that just wasn't truly either. And that's where the frustration lies at for a lot of Bulls fans. And that's where some of the doubt is now creeping in as well for what this next phase of the Chicago Bulls could look like. Do you trust AK and Eversley to do it? And I think a lot of Bulls fans are going to honestly say, no, they don't have that trust by this Bulls front office to even go through this rebuild. Now, I personally like a lot of the pieces that they got here. I love Matis Bucilis. I think when he fell there, he became the right pick. You guys know Khalil Ware was somebody that I loved in this draft, but Tajon Saloon, Matis Bucilis were players that I looked at and said had probably the highest ceiling potentially in this draft. They went out and got one of those guys. I like that move. I actually like that move a whole hell of a lot, right? I love Matis Bucilis for what he is. I even have a video saying on why Matis Bucilis and or Josh Giddey really have to hit. And that's not to say that they need to become these superstars or anything like that, but they have to hit, meaning that they have to end up being pieces that work for this Chicago Bulls team in the long run that the Bulls can build with, even if they can't build around. They have to turn into that to help this rebuild off on the right path. And if they're not, it just makes it more difficult. It doesn't mean that they still can't salvage something here, because theoretically they can, but it just makes it more difficult if you have those pieces hit and turn into something for you. And can they? Will they? That's what we're trying to see here for the Chicago Bulls. But AK and Eversley's lack of foresight and lack of vision is something that needs to be studied, because that is what holds franchises back. And if they can correct that, if they've learned from those things, and then we start seeing more of that needed foresight, more of that needed vision, more of that needed awareness of just where things sit, then this thing can still be done. Unlike some people, I'm not writing AK and Eversley completely off, because I do like some of the things that they have done, and I understand it in the scope of where they were in that moment. But at the same time, you only can get so many of those opportunities. You can only have so many misses as a front office before eventually they all just catch up to you, and you're left in a place where you ain't got shit left to do. All those moves end up catching up on you. And that's where AK and Eversley dangerously find themselves potentially being at sooner rather than later, if they don't start hitting on more things and more consistently at a better rate. And that's where the danger lies in with this team. That's where the frustration lies in with a lot of Bulls fans. You have to be more aware. So yeah, they've cleaned the slate, and credit to them for doing that in a degree, but they've also kind of stacked the deck against themselves, because now, again, even with me understanding and pretty much liking the Josh Giddey move, you put yourself in a situation where you are going to have to extend him off 1 year of data, 1 year of looking of seeing how he looks on your team, 1 year of understanding how he can mesh with some of these other players that you hope are going to be here for a while, before you ultimately have to get him and lock him into a long-term deal. And best believe that deal is going to be pricey. If Josh Giddey comes in here and he averages 16, 8, and 8, or 17, 6, and 6, anything even remotely near that contract extension is going to be ridiculous, and the Bulls are going to want to get the most years available on that, because they've only had 1 year of sample size. So you're not looking at the Bulls signing a 3-year deal like with Patrick Williams, Kobe White. Patrick Williams got a 5-year deal, but with Kobe White and Ayo Dosunmu, he's going to get a 5-year deal worth near his max. How close to that max it gets depends on how the season turns out for Josh Giddey, but you put yourself right there on that timeline where you almost immediately have to make that decision. And that is something that hasn't always worked out in the Bulls' favor. Will it this time? Let's hope so, because if it doesn't, we're going to be right back here looking the same way that we've looked before, wondering why we locked into this long-term contract and it just ain't working. So they better damn well hope that that Josh Giddey works out for them, that Josh Giddey comes in and is exactly who and what they need him to be. Because if he doesn't, we could be talking about setting a rebuild back even further. If they have to give Josh Giddey a full 5-year extension on anything close to his max, anything close, even if it's not the exact max, anything close to that max, and he ends up not working out, I do not want to be the fly on that wall. But then again, this is a Jerry Reinsdorf-owned team. For all we know, Jerry Reinsdorf is looking at the situation and saying, hey, you know what? This rebuild actually isn't that bad. We've sold them on hope yet again. These Bulls fans are real hopeful again, y'all. And not a goddamn thing comes out of it. That's very well where this could end up again. So let me be clear on that. While I would like to say that it could make it for an interesting situation, as long as Jerry Reinsdorf is the owner, you can never say that with too much confidence, because it is Jerry Reinsdorf. So take that for what you will as well. But we just got to see. We just got to see what's going to come of this, man. And hopefully this is something that the Bulls take this new direction and it actually ends up being something that's fruitful for them. Because if it's not, we are in for another 3, 5, however many years of nothing but stress, strife, and frustration for Chicago Bulls fans. And I, for one, am tired of it. I'm tired of being stressed as a Bulls fan. I don't know about y'all, but I'm tired of it. So yeah, let's hope that we get to where we need to get to. Let's go to some of your guys' comments. Let's see how you guys are feeling about it. Taxton says, yo, what up, Haize? What's going on, fam? Jelly Prod Ty, what's going on, brother? Mario P, the whole national and local media told AKME this would happen, and here we are. Well, I wouldn't say all. A lot did, but then again, you can't allow the national media, because the national media as well said that the Warriors should have gave up or started rebuilding when they did, and they won another title out of it. Now, things end up falling off after that, but I'm just saying that to say you can't always go off the national media with that, brother. But I do understand completely what you're getting at there. That's just kind of my thought process on that one. I am a coward. Wow, that's funny, Delbert. Says, hell yeah, Haize is back. I ain't never went nowhere, man. What AKME did to this franchise in 3 years needs to be studied. The team would have been better if he never made trades. That is something as well that does need to be studied. But then again, here's the thing that I'll tell you. Wendell Carter hasn't really progressed much. I don't think he's that much better than Nikola Vucevic. Now, he is younger. He is on a rookie scale deal. Daniel Gafford, he never would have got the contract he got with the Chicago Bulls either. Lauri Markkanen, he was ready to go, not just because of what this front office did, but because of the Jim Boylan era. So who's to say that he would have developed here either? And then you look at the draft picks that the Bulls gave up. I don't know if the Bulls would have drafted Franz Wagner. There was a point guard in that draft, and even a wing in that draft that I think the Bulls would have went for first. But, woulda, coulda, shoulda. But, yeah, I think we would have, at the bare minimum, we would have been just right here where we are now. We gave up a lot of assets. We gave up what it ended up being 4 first-round picks to be here, where we would have probably been with 4 first-round picks at least. So I definitely understand where you're getting from with that one. Guys, let's just wait on Zoe to come back. Come on, man. Why do you want to cause me more trauma, bruh? Like, why? Like, I'm here delivering great content for y'all, and you want to deliver more trauma for Haize. Why do people want to traumatize Haize more than what the Bulls already did? Haven't we been through enough? I cover this team every single day for y'all, and you want to cause me more stress. See, the love ain't like that, man. When they say love ain't supposed to hurt, that's what they talking about, bro. Why you want to hurt me, man? Why do you want to hurt me? Ask yourself that. What has Haize done to you other than giving you great content day in and day out? Why you want to hurt me? Why? That's rude. That is rude. That is uncalled for. That is cruel and unusual. That's what that is. That ain't even called for, bro. You didn't even have to do that to me, man. The Bulls got 10 more years till the championship. We might as well shift our focus to the sky. Well, you could do both, and you should have been supporting the sky anyway. As somebody who's been watching the WNBA consistently for 10 years, you should have been watching the WNBA anyway. That's my thought process on that. That's on you. You missed out on that one because you should have been supporting the W anyway. You'd have missed out on the Sky title and some more shit. You should have already been supporting the W, my boy. But I understand what you're getting at with that one. AKME is ruining the franchise. Can you really say that? This team really isn't anywhere differently than what it was under the previous regime, to be 100% honest with you. So I can't say they're ruining something that was already a joke personally. I get why you're saying that completely, but to me, you can't say ruin it. This franchise has been ruining itself for the last decade plus already. We could have traded Drummond to Philly last year, and it would have been a win-win for Andre and us. Completely agree with you, because he probably would have got more money on the deal and a lot of that. So what it says, they had their chances to retool over the last 2 years, but decided now, and now they are a mess. Yeah, and this is why it has to be a cautionary tale on understanding when and where to pull your cards. Like, that's just it. You have to understand. Now, here's the thing. It's not like it's over. Like, at some point, they did what they did. You got to move on, and you got to start making the right decisions now. So I'm not going to be somebody who's just like, oh, my God, you didn't do it when you're supposed to. All for naught. Oh, my Lance of the Bulls are just going. No, I'm glad that they got to this point, because we could have very well been in a season this offseason, had DeMar DeRozan taking that $80 million deal. You know where we would have been right now? Instead of being a team that's actually now going the path of going younger, we would have been a team that would have been still trying to keep it together. And that's a whole different place that you want to be in. Mr. Noy says they definitely got to be more proactive in the future. So many opportunities were missed with this late rebuild. 100% agree with you. Hit the nail on the head there, boy. Hit the nail on the head. People hating on the front office, but they've been making moves slowly. They understand the mistakes and problems with this team. Yeah, and you know that the recollection that they've or the recognizing that they've done as far as understanding, hey, now's the time. I got to give them some credit for it. When AK sat there in that postseason press conference and said, "We understand this roster ain't it," paraphrasing because that's not how AK talks. That was a level of awareness that has been sorely missing, and we've been waiting to hear from AK, waiting to hear from this front office, and it's good that they made it at some point. But at the same time, you still can't ignore that they made the decision where they made it. And I got to disagree here. I agree with your first one, disagree with you here, because Jerry Reinsdorf wasn't the problem when Jerry Krause was able to win titles, because Jerry Krause cared more about winning. Jerry Reinsdorf wasn't the problem when John Paxson built a team that over the course of 5 years had 45 or more wins and then had one down season and then got Derrick Rose. He wasn't the problem then. Yeah, we didn't win a title, but you can build a team. Jerry Reinsdorf does not get involved in the day-to-day if you're doing your job. And so where we sit right now isn't because of Jerry Reinsdorf. It's because of a lack of a couple of things. Lack of understanding when and where to move off players, but even before then, missing on too many draft picks, not developing those players, not having the right system in place to develop those players, and then injuries. And that's not on anybody. That's not controllable. But I gotta disagree. Yes, Jerry Reinsdorf not wanting this team to pay the luxury tax is a thing, but guess what? Go and look at it. Only 8 teams paid the luxury tax, and not every one of those teams that paid the luxury tax were great. And there are a lot of teams that didn't pay the luxury tax that still are able to put together competent teams. The front office is always more of in charge of actually building the team. Jerry has his things, and he doesn't get abstained either. But it's always down to the front office to make their decisions, because guess what? If you make the right decisions, if you hit on more draft picks than miss on, you have a cost control team. The luxury tax, guess what? We never thought about the luxury tax when Ben Gordon, Kirk Heinrich, Luol Deng, Tyrus Thomas. But when those teams were winning 40 plus, 45, 48 games, we didn't think about the luxury tax, because guess what? We built correctly through the draft, and the luxury tax wasn't even a thing that we had to worry about. We had a young team that we were able to go out and spend money on a Ben Wallace, who was one of the better free agents that year. But guess what? He ended up sucking for the Bulls. But even then, you know why the Bulls were able to withstand a signing like Ben Wallace? Ben Wallace ended up being a terrible signing for the Bulls. But you know what they did? While Ben Wallace was on this team, they drafted Joakim Noah. And Joakim Noah ended up being the center that we hoped Ben Wallace was going to be, and much more than that, because they still drafted well. So even when they made a mistake with their money, they were able to live with that mistake, and that mistake didn't hurt their team and set their team back, because they drafted well over time. That's the thing that's missing in this. You're not going to hit on every free agent. You're not going to get the big name free agents. But when you hit on your draft picks, that's what helps you build a sustainable winning franchise. And that's what we didn't have here. So until the Bulls move Zach and we're still in limbo. No, we're not in limbo. That's wrong. I got to disagree with that. The Bulls have picked a direction. Going younger is the direction. We got to stop thinking that it has to be all one thing or all another, or we're still in limbo. No, because even if this team now starts succeeding, you're doing it with younger players. Yeah, Zach LaVine that's not in your control. Unfortunately, you gave him the deal. He's not movable. You're not in limbo. You can still pick your direction and then hope that somebody's going to take him, or eventually Zach's phased out. But you're not in limbo because of that. You're not in limbo. Zach's time is done. There's no way he's staying because Debo is gone, along with Caruso, Drummond, and hopefully Vooch next. Well, no, that's just wrong as well. There's a complete possibility that Zach LaVine is on this roster next season. A complete one. Duarte is an elite bench piece and a possibly – no, he's not. No, he's not. I'm sorry. No, he's not. Chris Duarte is not an elite anything, except elite looking like Denzel Valentine. He had one good season and has been down since then. He's already 27 years old. There's not usually much progression done at that age. He's regressed every single year he's been in the NBA. He's not elite anything. Do you think – really, let's be real here. If anybody saw Chris Duarte as elite, Do you think he would have been included in that deal for the Chicago Bulls? Let's just be real here, bro. Chris Duarte is not elite in anything. He's not elite. Now, can he come in here and be a solid piece? Maybe. But elite? No, he's not elite. Haize, who do you think the Bulls should sign in free agency? I mean, I feel like we could have waived someone and signed Paul Reed for extra depth. But I think this team is locked in unless they make a trade and open up another roster spot. I don't think we're signing any more free agents personally. The Bulls would have not drafted Franz Wagner. Matter of fact, out here, we got time. We got time right now because we're chilling. It's late night. I tell you right now, I guarantee you the Bulls wouldn't have drafted Franz Wagner. Let's go and look at that draft. That would have been is that the 2018 draft? What are we in now? 2024. That would have been the 2020 draft. Let's go look at that draft. Let's go look at it. Was that the 2020 draft? I think that was the 2020 draft. Let's take a look at it. Was it not the 2020 draft? Was it 2021 draft? Yep, 2021 draft. So looking at this right now, at where so everything stays the same. We're saying picks 1 through 7 stay the same. I'll tell you right now, the Bulls would have either drafted Zaire Williams, James Bouknight would have been somebody on there. Chris Duarte, honestly, could have been somebody on their list as well. Maybe Trey Murphy. Maybe they would have taken Trey Murphy, which I would have been cool with that. Maybe they would have taken Trey Murphy, but I highly doubt they would have taken Franz Wagner. Chris Duarte is a low key sleeper. I don't agree on that. He's gotten worse every single year. I think that what we see, he's like Saddiq Bey. A lot of people bring up Saddiq Bey because he had that one good season. Chris Duarte had a really good rookie season, made all rookie second team, and you cannot take that away from him. But he hasn't been able to stay healthy. He hasn't even when he has been healthy, he hasn't played with the same. Like, you really think that many teams, right? Because he's been on 2 teams since his rookie year? The Pacers and the Sacramento Kings, they just couldn't find a role for Chris Duarte. There were times where two-way contract players were getting minutes over Chris Duarte. He's a small forward / shooting guard that's 6'5" and right under 200 pounds. I don't think he's a sleeper. I don't think he's a sleeper at all. AK is terrible at I honestly think that's Eversley's the negotiation guy. That's what I think. DeMar never been over 100 pace. I wonder what Sack does with him or how the offense adjusts. We'll see. I mean, he adjusts a little bit. He showed me that he can play in a more up-tempo offense last year. I really like the way that he adjusted towards the second half of that season, and we'll see. We'll see. Guys, what if LaVine gets traded at 2 a.m.? Well, yeah, because for those that don't know, I know not every Bulls fan is a Chicago Bears fan, but when the Chicago Bears signed Shane Waldron, it was at 3 o'clock in the morning. Guess who was the first one to have the video out? I was before ESPN. I was before any other Bulls content creator. I was so early on that news that there were people in the comment section saying, Haize, we don't see this anywhere. This got to be capped. Haize is capping. Oh, Chicago Bears Central is capping. And then as like an hour or 2 went by and other people started reporting them, those same people started leaving comments like, damn, Haize, you had this first. Yeah, if news drops, we drop. That's just period. That's period. Joakim was fired. Yeah, exactly. And I think that goes, people forget that, right? Paxson didn't make, and this is before Gar Forman, he drafted Tyrus Thomas. He signed Ben Gordon. He drafted Marquise Teague. People don't remember that because they drafted so well over time. They had a Jimmy Butler come up. They had a Joakim Noah come up. They had a Taj Gibson hit on. They also drafted James Johnson, who had a long career but didn't work out for the Bulls. They did all these things, but because they made so many good decisions over time, their misses didn't affect the team as much. Right now, every one of AK's misses has affected the team so much because it's a series of bad decisions. John Paxson, when he originally took over this team before Gar Forman, for every bad decision, made 2 or 3 good decisions. That's how you can insulate yourself against bad decisions. Every front office is going to have misses. Every front office is going to make bad decisions. But if you make the right decisions over time and consecutively, you can weather a couple of bad decisions. Right now, the Bulls can't weather a bad decision. They aren't in the place. They haven't built that enough insulation against that. They just haven't. So we'll see what happens, man. We'll see what happens. A team of Giddey, Kobe, Zach, P. Will. It's not about tanking. See, I think people have to understand there's a difference between tanking and naturally being bad. This is a bad team. It's a bad basketball team. No three-point shooting, no rim protection, even worse defensively than what we were last year. That's not tanking. You still want to put those players in a place where they're trying to win games, but if you're just naturally not going to win games, then you're not tanking. Tanking to me, and I always have defined tanking as you are purposely putting yourself in a situation to be bad to lose basketball games. The Bulls aren't doing that. The Bulls aren't intentionally trying to lose games or trying to put out a bad team. The Bulls are now developing. And they're going to have a team that is going to play a fun style, that is going to get out in transition. But they are still a team that's lacking important things to be truly competitive. So it's a difference between that. They're just a team that's younger, and they're in the development stage of where they are. They're not necessarily tanking. The Nuggets never tanked. But there were some years where there was a mad questionable team. Now, I think that team also never won less than 38 games, but they had some talent on it. But they weren't tanking. This isn't a team that's going out there is going to say, yeah, Giddey, go ahead and sit for me. But it's a team that's missing some very bad things, some very important needed things to be a truly successfully winning team. And so they're going to win games without having to try to lose games. So retooling is a great way. Retooling is a great way to word it. And like I said, you're in a development phase, right? Not every team that doesn't make the play-in tournament is tanking. Some are just bad, right? Some are just bad and they're developing, or they have injuries. They have things like that. This team isn't tanking, but they're definitely not going to be a team that's really competing for much either. The big issue I see given historical reactions is Mattis isn't a 20-point per game player in 2 years. People will call him a bust and demand he gets traded. For sure. I mean, that is what Bulls fans will do. But I think we also have to realize that, like, when you're building a foundation, not everybody's going to turn. Everybody doesn't have to turn into a 20-point per game scorer to be somebody that you can build with. And that's why I always go back to that baby Bulls era. Kirk Heinrich, Luol Deng, Ben Gordon, Joakim Noah, I'll put it a little bit higher than that. Taj Gibson. These are players that you look at and say, these are franchise players. But guess what? You set a foundation, and then by the time you got Derrick Rose, all those players who are really role players to high-level role players, they understood their role. You knew exactly what they were. You knew exactly how they were going to fit. And therefore, once you finally got your star, you didn't have to wait on players that had to learn with them. Derrick Rose was able to grow and develop, and those players understood their role, and they were able to adapt as Derrick Rose grew and became what he became. And then you didn't have to spend a bunch of money to go out there and get players. Yeah, you spent money on Carlos Boozer as well, which hit or miss there. I think he had 2 really good seasons with the Bulls and then kind of started dropping down. But you have to build consecutively over time. And so you gotta be patient a lot. To keep next year top 10 draft pick, I must have missed something he said. We just suck. We developing, sure, but we will not win much, which is okay. Like I've said this before, and I had this conversation on Twitter. If this Bulls team wins 35 games, it's better. It's technically progression, even though we won 39 last season. And the reason why is you're doing it with young pieces that are developing, that are stepping into new roles that you're relying on and that you know are going to be part of your future, right? And that's Zach LaVine aside of that. And Vooch is a center there that can actually help the development of your young guys. But yeah, that's what I see. Man, if we get the center from Duke, and I'm Malash, I know I'm killing his name. That is when, all right, Now you got your pieces. Now you got your pieces. Everybody wants to rebuild and retool at the same time. Drafting for success takes strategy and proper player development. It takes time. Completely agree with you in that one. Carlos Boozer was solid. It was the contract, though. We should have kept Eddie Curry and Marcus. No, what the fuck? Delbert, bro, I'm going to mute you in a second, man. Shut up. Shut up. Lay off the fence. Shut up. Love you, brother. Love you. I honestly think Pat is going to be the biggest surprise this season. He will fit in a lot better with a point guard like Giddey. Let's hope so. Let's hope so. Let's hope so. Let's hope so. I can see the Bulls will win over 34 games. I mean, we'll see. We'll see. I mean, if they do, it means that Patrick either took a step up, that somebody took a step up. Giddey was everything that the Bulls had hoped him to be. That's what we're hoping for. That's what we're hoping for. But all right, y'all. I just wanted to come on here. This was on my mind. I was literally chilling, and it was just in my mind. I was thinking about all these moves and AK and things. I was like, F it. Let's go ahead and go get live. Let's go on the live, man. Let's go ahead and break it down. Let's talk about it with Bulls fans. You guys know I love talking to you and rapping with you guys, man. Very important, man. I love you guys. You guys are amazing, and you guys mean the world to me, man. And keep hitting that subscribe button. Stay in tune with this, man. You guys know. I hope that we deliver the best content for the Bulls in the offseason. I pride myself on what we're able to do in the offseason. There's a lot of podcasts that kind of go away in the offseason. Chicago Bulls Central will never be one of those, man. We're always going to be one of the podcasts that stay. In a lot of ways, I post more content in the offseason than I do during the regular season. So, but yeah, I love you guys, man. You guys are so important to me and to the channel, and you guys are just amazing, man. You guys are amazing. But before I go, I do want to ask this. What do you guys? How do you guys, I should say, that's the word I want to, how do you guys feel about how the Chicago Bulls have commented on the departures of Alex Caruso and DeMar DeRozan? They barely said anything about Alex Caruso in that little press release. Now, of course, AK said more about DeMar DeRozan. They even released the little highlight video of his time in Chicago. But I just think that these guys kind of deserved a little bit more. Personally, I feel like they deserved a little bit more, man. But yeah. You guys can let me know what you guys think on that one. Marie says, for sure, best content. All love, Haize. Bless you and yours. I appreciate that, bro. I appreciate that. Scottie Pippen Jr. looking nice. Scottie Pippen Jr. always looks nice in the offseason. And then when he gets in games in the regular season, you're just looking at him like looking kind of fraudulent in the light there, my boy. You the best, Haize. See red if you can, y'all. You already know what it is, man. Definitely agree, deserve more. Yeah, I just like, and don't get me wrong. I know we didn't win a whole lot. Like we didn't win a playoff series or anything like that. I'm not saying that they should have gotten any type of like what Joakim Noah or Derrick Rose or Jimmy Butler got as far as like these huge videos or anything. But like DeMar DeRozan broke Wilt Chamberlain records under you. Like Wilt Chamberlain records under you. That's not something like these records stood longer than a lot of us have been alive, right? And I get it. He said a lot more. Read AK's thing here. We thank DeMar for everything he has done for our team as a leader and mentor. Everyone inside our building appreciated and respected DeMar's professionalism and commitment to the organization and city of Chicago, and we wish him the best in Sacramento. Great words. But it's just like you saw what Sam Presti, I believe, did when he actually in front of a camera and talked about Josh Giddey. Right? Talked about like what he did. And even though there was like, I don't know, man, it's just the Bulls just seem in this place where we have this front office that really does not like being in front of the camera, that does not like talking to media. And thus it just leaves so much like Alex Caruso deserved more than what he got on his way out to me. You know, maybe that's just my thinking though. But all right, y'all, man. I love you guys, man. Y'all make sure y'all stay in tune with us, man. Hit that subscribe button. I love you guys. You can follow us at Bull Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, bullcentralpod@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We are the #1 spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. That's thanks to you guys. And like I like to end every episode on, go Bulls.